Good morning, good morning. Julio Guzman, Demetrius Knowles. This is Talk Visual 305.
Good
where
morning.
We're talking to real community leaders and real men doing real things in the city of Homestead. Today we got a special guest in the building. James Hawkins is in the building.
Thank you for having me here. Thank you.
A little bit about James. He is the founder of KenCat Financial Group. This is a wealth management financial group that also specializes in insurance and wealth management and estate planning. He is the founder of Men Molding Men, which is a community-based organization helping our youth get through life. He's a military man. He's a homegrown Homestead gentleman, and he is one of the best dressed men I've ever seen. Let's give it up for James Hawkins.
Thank you for that compliment, guy. I appreciate it.
So welcome, Mr. Hawkins. Welcome, sir. We're delighted to have you here.
I'm happy to be here.
So we would like to get into it. So tell us a little about yourself. Who are you, sir?
Who am I? First of all, I'm the son. I'm a native of the Homestead, Florida City community. I'm the son of Miss Beulah May, the late Beulah May Jowers and Joe Hawkins. Graduated of Southgate High School. Had a very little above average athletic talent throughout my high school year, but primarily, who am I today? I'm just a guy on a purpose. I'm living intentional. I have a purpose. I am in the financial service industry. I'm a licensed insurance agent. I focus on making sure family understand financial literacy. Also, I take a holistic approach to ensuring that I'm able to address people's financial needs to help them optimize their financial situation to attain their dreams and goals and financial objectives for them and their families. One of the things I do also have a mentoring program, and I want to give credit where credit is due. That I'm a co-founder of that program, which was along with the side of Kenny Fountain, and also a part of the co-founder of the organization Sankofa Florida Corp, which is a umbrella of numerous operations that we have up under that particular umbrella.
Okay.
So I met Mr. Hawkins a few years ago. My cousin Patria introduced me to Mr. Hawkins because her son was participating in the Men Molding Men youth program, which I thought was amazing. And I immediately found a lot of respect for this gentleman for what he was doing with shaping these young men. But before we get into that, I do want to ask, you were an athlete. Was it football, basketball, wrestling? Which one was it?
Well,
which one was it?
Yeah.
I was a baseball player, a football player.
We got to give it up for baseball. We got to give it up for baseball.
Yes, I played baseball, and also I quarterback at Southgate. Yes.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah, got an athletic
You know,
background.
the other day, not to get too much off topic, but it was the ceremony, the street naming ceremony for Chief Pedro Taylor.
Absolutely.
And there were so many people that went up and spoke such great words about this guy.
Right.
And I wanted to say something too because I had a story. I have a story about Pedro Taylor, Chief Pedro Taylor, when I was going from junior varsity to varsity at the Homestead football team. There was a moment where he asked me to do a play, and I just said, you know what, I don't think I belong on this team. These guys are too big. I don't think I'm big enough.
Right.
And he said, boy, you don't got to be big to play football. You just got to have heart.
Right. That's right.
You just got to have heart.
Yeah.
And the very next play after hearing that, I went in and I sacked the quarterback, and I felt like I was the biggest man. So there are words that mentors give you at a young age that stick with you throughout life.
That is true.
And every time I felt like I couldn't do something, I'd always hear his voice saying, you don't have to be the best. You don't have to be the biggest. You just have to have the heart and the mindset to do it. And before you know it, you're accomplishing goals that you never thought you could.
Well said. Well said.
So, getting right back into what you were doing with Men Molding Men. Tell us a little bit about Men Molding Men and that youth program and how it's helped the youth in Homestead and Florida City.
Well, you know what? Returning back to Homestead, I saw a need for the service. And that was the first thing. I identified a need for the service, and I decided to get involved. I've been mentoring over 36 years throughout my military career, and I was always excited about bringing this opportunity back at home and to be able to return, and saw the need. And quickly, one of the things I did, I created a base. That base was made up of people, of community leaders, business owners, of people such as the Willie Carpenter, Lovey Clayton, Mr. Jerome Eppinger, and also local civic leaders. We all got together with a common goal And like I said, the co-founder, Kenny, found we had a common goal, and that was to come together and put something together where we can give back to these kids, empower them. You talk about your story, Mr. Guzman, and that's what we keep. You just need somebody to pour into them.
Yeah.
And simply what actually happened when that gentleman told you, which Chief Taylor told you, it was him making. It was a significant moment that put a signature in your mind that you never forget. So the goal was to come back and be not only a mentor, but a role model, because all role models are not mentors, and all mentors are not role models. And I try to be the example I hope these young people copy. I don't want them to be like me. I always tell people there's nothing wrong with being a copycat as long as you copy the right cat. And I want them to be original. So yes, I want them to be themselves.
That's that tip and trick right there.
So, just simply we just want to be blueprints. We want to equip these young men, and we do work with young ladies as well in our organization with the tools and things to put in their tool bag to be able to build the type of life they hope to build for themselves and their family, be productive citizens here in America and also in our society.
Well said.
Yeah, we're glad that gentlemen like you stay in the Homestead, Florida City area, because a lot of times you reach a certain level in your own talent and in your own growth that you may want to go up to New York or Texas or California or whatever, just so you could spread your wings. But keeping that talent here and passing it down to generations that are coming after, I think it's a very commendable attribute that you've got.
It is.
So we definitely appreciate it.
And we've seen a lot of changes, so being able to come back to those things.
It's ironic you make that statement because I have a program tomorrow we're going to be showcasing our academic excellence with our kids in our organization, young women and men and those who's going to be graduating. And one of the things I was hoping to be able to say to them is that my goal is that you leave, learn, and return.
Yeah.
Yes, and bring back some in whatever capacity, maybe it's your gift, your talent, your treasure, but always give back to the place where you came from, where the dream started, and it was your launching pad. So you can be that launching pad for those who follow behind us.
I love that. Lean, learn, return.
Yeah, lead, learn, and return.
Yes, I love that. So tell us a little more about your business itself. Your business as a whole, kind of a.
As it relates to the KenCat Financial Group, it is a subsidiary of the Sims Financial Group, which is out of Memphis, Tennessee. And our primary focus is really to sit down with clients, empower individuals with information that otherwise they would not get. My primary focus here lately has really been generational wealth and also generational power, helping them understand when it comes to life insurance. Life insurance is yet under discussed conversation and most underused product and tool, and making sure they understand how these tools work. Because most folks, when they think about life insurance, what do you think about?
Death.
You think about death, but it's not death insurance, it's life insurance. And one thing I know you can't control at the end of your life, you won't be able to control the emotions of people, but you can have some control of their economic situation and your passion. And that's the power of these tools. And I always talk to folks when I talk about this particular service and product, it is simply a means of leaving your family not powerless but powerful. Because one of the things I think can definitely empower our community is making sure that we have these type of tools and things in place. We talk about estate planning, things we don't really sit down, having those tough conversations. I know nobody wants to sit down and talk about leaving here.
Right.
But, the last time I did a survey, we're all going to leave, and it's not what we want to think about. But here's the thing. Nobody makes it mandatory for you to go do these things, but I often tell clients when I sit down and talk to them, when they have all these beautiful cars, you got your car insured, but you don't have your family insured.
Right.
So you have to think about what's important. And it starts with every financial plan, it starts with a foundation. It starts with a foundation because most of the things you want outside of that, beyond that, it takes time. And if time is not on your side, you need to make sure you have the things in place to make sure that those things will be okay for your family. You want whatever you plan to manifest for your family. If you're here, what do you have in place to ensure that it happened in the event you're not here? So what I think about when I think about life insurance and these tools is a peace of mind.
Right.
It's simply a peace of mind. Yes.
I was watching a show on Netflix, and it was called The Men Who Built America, and it was Carnegie, it was Rockefeller, and it was J.P. Morgan, and there was one other person. I don't remember his name now. Mm-hmm. But what I noticed that they had that they created, when you say generational wealth, there's something called the waterfall, right?
Absolutely.
The waterfall effect or the waterfall method, where it's almost like they became their own bank
Absolutely.
through insurance policies.
So they borrow against themselves.
And it has a lot of tax benefits, which, I mean, I'm not an expert in the field.
Right.
You're absolutely right. And if I can chime in, as ironic you talk about Rockefeller, because I'm reading that book right now, and it does talk about that, the power of insurance and when it's properly structured for you and your family and what it does. And you're absolutely right. You can build a family bank by using it properly structured insurance concepts. And it's not about the product. IUL is not a product. It's a concept. And, you know, a lot of the youth are excited about it, but I think it's important and it is an imperative that they understand how this concept works and how it should look and make sure it's structured for you and your family.
Right. So to the average person, and with social media the way it is today,
Right.
you could go on TikTok, Instagram, and there's a bunch of people talking about all of these strategies that make it sound super simple. But for me, sometimes I'm like, you know what, I don't know the other person on the other side. I'd rather talk to someone that I like and trust and that's here with me that could explain it to me. Like I say, please rewind, can you tell me that again? Can you help me understand how that fits into my dynamic and my family? And people like you are such a great asset to have that you could say, look, based on what your family, based on the way it's set up, this is what I think you ought to do to position yourself for generational wealth. Because we all throw that term around, and I'm sitting here thinking, am I prepared for generational wealth?
Yeah. Do you have your structures in place?
You know what I mean?
Those pillars?
When you talk about social media, you got to be careful you're not following people's experience versus their expertise. People's experience may not be your experience, so you want to be careful in who you choose to follow in terms of the information. I often tell people, whoever has your ear controls your destination. You want to be very careful who you allow to control your ear, because you're messing around doing some things maybe you shouldn't do. But however, you're absolutely right. There's a lot of information out there that's telling you what to do, how to do it, and a lot of it is based on people's experience.
Right.
And past performance can't predict, future performance. So we have to be very careful of that. But I will tell you that the bank on yourself concept is actually a concept. But let's talk about the different types of life insurance. Is that okay?
Yeah.
And because there's a lot of different types of life insurance, and it's based on your unique financial situation, your family. Everybody has a unique financial situation. Most folks, they have job insurance. I think it's great. You get a benefit from it, but one thing that never happens with these benefits, nobody never sit down and explain to you how they work and what happens when you leave. And then I always tell people, it's best to own something than to rent something, but until you can own it, it's okay to rent it. Right. So when I think about term insurance, I think it's a great insurance based on your unique financial situation. There's no such thing as a bad type of insurance as long as it's done correctly for you and your family. So term insurance is a need-based product. It should be earmarked for a period of time in the event something happened. You may have a business partner, you have younger kids. When you're young, you have a younger family, you have more overhead. And then the older you get, the situation should be one of those things where they call the theory of decreasing responsibility. The older you get, you should have less debt. Your kids are older, they're out of school, they're out of the house, just like you and I would discuss earlier, which means you should have saved a lump sum of money, and not only having a retirement account, but have what they call a FIN, a financial independent number, a number that you need to hit to make sure that you're able to retire. And what that simply means is that a vast majority of people in America, maybe 60-some%, are not retired, have not properly prepared to save and plan for retirement. So that means you probably would have to work for the rest of your life until your disabled disability date. And I say this without getting emotional. I saw my mother do this, and it's not a great thing. I think if you're working beyond retirement, it should be something you're doing out of position, not out of pressure.
Right.
Yes.
Well said.
And then we talk about other insurance, which is permanent insurance. Permanent insurance is a couple of different whole life, universal life, index universal life. It all works different, but it all have a very similar concept. But again, it all depends on your unique financial situation, what people should be doing before they provide you any type of service. It's like going to the doctor. If I go to the doctor and I see the doctor at the elevator and I tell him my arm is hurting and he said, well, I'm going to prescribe you a medication, I probably have a malpractice lawsuit there, right? So you have to think about it. I can't sit here and tell you what you need when I haven't dissected your situation. I don't know what your priority, I don't know what your appetite is for investments, taking risks. I have to know these things in order for me to structure something, make it tailor-made to you and your family.
Now, to the audience listening out there that thinks this might be too expensive, might be, I don't think that's for me. Like, what are some of the objections that you typically hear, knowing based on statistics that it's probably a beneficial move for that family, but you hear, oh, I can't afford that.
I like that. It's something I always think about. Affordability is not about your ability to pay. It's about what you make a priority.
There you go.
So if you see life insurance as an expense, no, it's not. It will be an expense. But life insurance is an investment. It's an investment in your peace of mind. It's an investment in your family to ensure that your family is okay in your absence. See, everybody can replace a loved one except the home. So I'm not telling you life insurance is the answer to keeping people alive. What I am telling you, for those that they leave behind, it makes the transition a lot more smoother. So, but again, it all depends on an individual, unique financial situation, to determine what that program or that process is. And it should always be a holistic approach. What that simply means, because we're living longer, so you have to plan for a longer retirement. There are so many different things that's changing in our society to where you have to plan. So that holistic approach consists of thinking about your health, whether you become critical or chronically ill, what do you have in place, long-term care. When you get older, it's best not to have to be the caretaker. You should be the person who's overseeing the caretaker. And a lot of us just don't know of these type of tools and things like that to have in place. And so what wind up happening is that you wind up having to use your money, your assets to fund health care in your elderly age, and having to fund health care at your elderly, at 1 year of that can wipe out 10 years of your retirement savings plan.
That is so true.
That's impactful.
So there's a lot of living benefits when it comes to life insurance. So you definitely want to be properly educated on those things.
So are you local, or it doesn't really matter? You can simply zoom in anywhere.
Absolutely. I'm licensed in numerous states: Georgia, Texas, South Carolina, Florida, North Carolina. So it doesn't matter. Depends on the client. If I have expectations like clients have expectations. I would love to work with everybody, but everybody is not going to be a good match for me, and I may not be a good match for them. So once we sit down and have that conversation,
you'll know.
I would know. But I'm always in the position to offer some good sound advice.
Awesome.
Those of you that know me and know my family, I'll tell you how elderly healthcare can sneak up on you.
Right.
Y'all know that my mom was an extreme workaholic. She worked 3 times more than all 4 of her kids, right? She was always very energetic and always moving around. So the family, we did well with estate planning, especially while she had a sound mind, but now she's got dementia. And the elderly care, when it sneaks up on you, it really takes a toll on the siblings and the family. So for those of you that are out there listening, if you can properly plan estate and elderly care, you want to kind of formulate a checklist. You've got kids that are going to go to college. You want to save for retirement. You want to have a life insurance policy, and you want to have something set up for elderly care, because we're all going to get there.
Right.
So you don't want to be surprised. And when it sneaks up on you, I'm telling you, within a matter of 2 or 3, 4 months, boom, you are in a situation that you never thought you'd be in.
Absolutely.
And you're all trying to figure it out.
Right.
And none of us are health experts. None of us know what to do. And then to deal with the bureaucracy of the insurance companies, Medicaid, Medicare, and all that, it's a real pain.
It is. And one of the things you talked about estate planning, here's another thing people don't take in consideration when it comes to lifestyle protection, I call it insurance, is making sure that you have mortgage insurance on your home. You know, your dream. You sell people their dream, right?
Right.
But what happens in the event something prematurely happened? How's that home protected? You can have a debt elimination program for your mortgage, or you can have a mortgage protection plan. What does that mean? Simply means that you incorporate. This is why I say you take the holistic approach. You have to calculate all those things in. You just bought a home. What is it going to take to maintain that home in the event something happens to you? And the difference between, you know, two families in the community, one passes and the other one stays in the community, the other one has to leave, is because of what they had in place prior to that individual, the breadwinner, leaving. So those things has to be taken in consideration.
Well said.
Changing subjects. The housing market is at a standstill at the moment, and there's a few moving parts there.
Is it a buyer's market?
It's a buyer's market. It's shifted completely into a buyer's market here.
Over here recently,
yeah,
right?
Recently. I'd say since last September of 2024. So people now have homes that they have to drastically reduce their price. But things that are going on with the mortgage rates, prices here in Miami-Dade County are through the roof. Right. The tariffs and everything going on with the economy. And now there's the war going on, or
Right.
Israel, Iran.
Absolutely.
Everybody is kind of
Holding.
just on standstill. But what I recently saw in a statistic is that American credit card debt is at the all-time high, right? So you've got everyone maxing out their credit cards. And these credit cards sometimes are at 29.99%.
Right.
If you're giving someone basic financial literacy, I'm sure it's on a case-by-case basis, but there are some basics to financial literacy in saying, don't max out your cards.
Right.
Don't max out your
Absolutely,
credit
it's
cards.
one of those
Or pay it
pillars.
off.
It's one of,
Pay it off.
It's one of the financial pillars. One of the first things you must do when it comes to your financial situation, you have to budget.
Right.
We leave that out. Budgeting, this is not a bad word. It's not kryptonite. It's simply just letting you know and how to control what you're doing with your money. And then a long-term strategy to ensure that you are able to retire, because you live a long time. You want to make sure you're able to exchange your money for time, because right now you're changing your time for money.
That's right.
And then the other thing is you want to have a debt elimination plan. I've had, one thing I can honestly say to the crowd, I've seen it all, I've done it all. When I say I've done it all, I've had to overcome things myself, and this is why I'm so passionate about what I do. And it's great to be in a position to be able to say that. And when you think about your debt, you have to make sure you have what I call a SWAT plan, saving and spending with a purpose. You don't want to put yourself in a position where you become, you put yourself in a position where you have more money going out than you have coming in. And I heard a gentleman on a golf course say one day, he said, I never made a whole lot of money, Mr. Hawkins, but what I can tell you is that whenever your outgoing income is greater than your incoming income, your upkeep become your demise. So we want to make sure that those things don't apply to us. And but definitely you want to make sure before you do any type of long-term investments, you want to make sure you're saving for emergencies, because one of the worst things can happen is when first thing people do when there's a situation in their home, car, home repair, first thing you do, you stop those things. And you want to have uninterrupted compounding periods when it comes to this your long-term planning. And another thing I like to share with the listeners out there, especially this younger crowd, is that learn about the Holocaust average contributions. What that simply means, you set a certain amount of funds every month, whatever that percentage is. The finance world say 20%, but anything getting started early has its advantage. By waiting, you propose self-imposed penalties. So the earlier you start, the less you spend. The longer you wait, the more you have to spend. Time is money.
Yeah.
Well said. Well
Very,
said.
very
So
well said.
pivoting now, what is fun for you?
What is fun for me is
Yes.
yes, man. I love playing tennis. I love going to the gym. I love working out. I love spending time with the youth because they keep me young. I always tell people I love being around dreamers, and that's what you have when you're dealing with youth. They're dreamers, and I'm a dreamer. That's what I do. I sit around thinking about what can I do next to impact people's lives. I love being around my friends. I love this type of thing. I love empowering conversation. I love, networking. These are things I get excited about. In the 11th grade, a book was given to me that changed my life, put me on the trajectory that I wound up getting on. Even though I went in the military after high school, after a couple of years, a year or so at Miami-Dade, it was the Dale Carnegie book, How to Win Friends, and Influence People.
Yeah.
And that book changed my life, and I still use it right now today. And what that simply means, it allows you to be more of a people person. Learn to listen to folks. And you just said it, things are changing. Now your approach towards your industry has to change.
Right.
People, now you have to listen more to people than they have to listen to you. When you don't have that command, now you have to be more of a listener.
I saw an article, it was by Jeff Bezos on budgeting, right? And he goes, you got to be weary of the small leaks.
Right.
The small leaks in your finances, because in today's world, everything is subscription based, and you get these automatic subscriptions
It adds up
on these things. And I'm sure it's happened to you guys, but
Absolutely.
you get that one auto renewal that you're like, I haven't used this thing in a year.
Right.
Absolutely.
And this thing just hit me auto renew, and you're like, oh no, let me hurry up and call them and say, hey, I'm not using this service. I hope and pray that they're going to remove or refund this money. But be mindful. Like, go through your bank accounts, go through your subscriptions on your phones, because Apple's got it real easy where you can just hit subscription for those Apple users out there. I'm not doing Android, but Apple users out there. And it'll show you the subscriptions that you've got.
Right.
And all these Netflix, Prime, Apple TV, all these things, they'll hit you.
Another one too is the prepaid cards. Those prepaid cards, if you don't use the full balance, there's millions and millions of dollars lost, because the prepaid cards, if you use $45 and it was a $50 card, that $5, can add up, and that goes back. So a lot of them try to just pay it off, just use it all, whatever it is. Prepaid card is one of those sticklers.
So Mr. Hawkins, with the way investing in securities now, in stocks, it's become fairly easy, and the commissions they've gone away, the brokerage commissions with things like Robinhood, these apps. I try to think of money now as soldiers. Like, I'm a military commander, and I've got soldiers, and I want every dollar in my wallet to be out there fighting to go get more.
That's right.
To go out there, fight, and go find more. Find more gold, right?
I love that. It's called optimization of your assets. You're absolutely right. And you definitely want your money working for you. You don't want idle money. You should have what they call inventory money that you have working for you and growing for you. And with that, I'd like to just talk a little about retirement. Is that okay?
Yes.
And because I think it's important, especially in our society, not understanding what your options are when it comes to retirement. There's only a couple of different benefit plans. You have employee benefit plans. You have employer contribution plan and benefit plans. And what that simply means, you have a lot of folks who's participating in their employer-sponsored 401ks. Folks at a certain age, you can take a little bit more control. At 59 and a half, this is when you have the options to make some changes. It depends on your unique financial situation, but you need to know what your options are. I tell you, before you walk out and take all these funds and wind up paying extreme big tax, you don't want tax to be your biggest bill in retirement. So you want to look for a mitigation plan to ensure that your taxes is manageable. And also for those individuals up in age and knowing about the RMD, the required minimum distribution. Those things are important. And you're absolutely right. What you're talking about, the slow leaks, is what you call the tick-ticks become boom-boom.
Tick-ticks, boom-boom.
Yeah.
Tick-tick, boom-boom. It turns into a bomb.
Exactly, yeah. So you're absolutely right. I mean, it's great points. Great points. That is so true. We don't pay attention to those little things because they're not making a lot of noise, and then by the time they do, it's causing you more than it would if you're just taking care of it ahead of time.
So how do you hedge? Let's say, for example, a person has been working for a company for 30 years, and they just so happen to be in a very downward market. Let's say 2008, 2007, 8, 9, where the economy crashed. Let's say you're retiring during that time, and you've seen your market right before 2005 at the height, and then right when you're going to retire, it just disappeared. The market went to crap.
Well, we saw that in 2002 and 2008. We saw that. Well, diversification is important. Diversification simply means it's one thing I love to talk about when it comes to planning for your retirement. You take into consideration the things you can and things you cannot control. You can't control how the government is going to, you can't control how the economy is going to act or respond, but you want to make sure that in some of your savings programs, your long-term savings program, you do have what they call a downside protection. And one of the things we talked about with the insurance concept, it does provide you that unique downside protection. And then there's some point where you're, like I said, 59 and a half. And let me talk to you about this here. This is important. There's 3 phases when it comes to retirement. Let's talk about that. The first phase is the accumulation phase. It's when you first go into the workforce, when you're establishing, you're creating, you're deciding what type of lifestyle you're going to live, you're finding your way through your career. You want to make sure that you are making a contribution to some type of long-term plan. But that is the dollar cost average. And let me just share, if you own a job and they have a contribution, they're contributing, you want to leverage those money. That simply means whatever that match is, you should budget it in your account to make sure you make your minimum contribution should be whatever they're matching. And then once you hit the age of 55, you're in what they call the preservation stage. That preservation stage is now you become a lot more conservative in terms of your where you save your money, how you save your money. You don't want to take any risk, because if you understand the rules of 72, it's simple as a simple mathematical formula that tells you how long it takes for your money to double. And I say that because you don't have as much time when you're young as when you was as young as you are now when you're 55. Because if you have $1 and the rate of return of it is 1%, that means it's going to take 72 years to double. Yeah. So you want to make sure you don't put yourself in a position where you can't recover. And what that simply means, when you're in that preservation stage, you want to make sure you're preserving your funds, because you're going to go in what they call the distribution stage. This is the most difficult stage for some people because they don't know how to properly plan for it. So I would encourage you to talk to some type of financial professional to help you prepare for that, because you don't want to wind up having to go to work because you didn't do it the best, the most efficient way for you to make sure that you don't outlive your money. So you want a concept that outlive you, not one that you outlive it.
Well said.
So for the people that have been working a long time, those employees, I think what they do is every now and then, let's say every couple months, they chime into their retirement account, and as long as it shows a little bit more than there was the last time they went in, then they're always happy. It gives them a surge of dopamine, right? Like, oh, I'm happy, things are going well. But there's someone else managing that.
Right.
Absolutely.
There's someone else managing that. Should employees ever think about having some sort of more control of their finance? Because I don't know if companies allow it.
Well, I don't know, but I think ideally what I try to do is meet with my clients, at least, based on what their request is, but at least annually to talk to them about what's going on in their program and things of that nature there. Because, one thing you have to take in consideration when it comes to your retirement is a puzzle. It's a 3-piece puzzle. It's a stool. You have your defined pension plan. That simply means you're going to get a retirement, right? And then you have your personal savings. Personal savings, your real estate, things you generally do for yourself, that you can take those assets, convert into income. And then you have Social Security. So you got to make sure all those things are stable, because if not, one has to be stronger than the other one. That means if you don't have a defined pension plan, that means you employ a defined pension plan, that where that money is going to be coming to you in retirement, you got to figure out how to create a private pension plan.
So you roll into a diversified portfolio, not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Well, that is the saying, and it always have been. You want to make sure that you're putting yourself in a position where you have balance and protection.
Demetrius, you and I being self-employed for most of our lives, do you have any idea what Social Security might be when you retire?
No, but I'm not relying on it.
Well,
I'm not holding my breath.
For those self-employed entrepreneurs out there, Social Security does apply to you too.
That's right.
It does, and a lot of I love dealing with business owners, and I tell you why. Is because we have a lot that we can offer in terms of guidance and long-term protection. Not only that, but protecting your business. But a lot of times people in business, you all can tell me if I'm wrong or right, most of the time in the first several years, you're putting a lot of your money back in your business.
Right.
But you're not putting it, you have to understand, we all have a human life future value to society, to our family. And you got to make sure that thing there is protected. I always tell people, your contribution, your value to society is going to determine what your property value is, which is you. So you want to make sure that you are ensuring this here stays in your society.
Well said. Well said.
Very well said. Well, that was a great conversation on a wealth of information. I took down some notes, and is there a way people can contact you so that they can get more information on some of the things you talked about?
Yes, you can. At KenCac, you can reach me at kencacfg99@gmail.com. You can have my telephone number is 803-546-9581. And if I can leave you all with anything, it's something that's very basic. You get to choose. Life you have or don't have is your choice. You really get to choose every day. Every day, life is just made up of a string of decisions, good habits, bad habits. That's a decision. The better your habits are, the better your life would be. And I always tell people, bad habits are easy to acquire, but hard to live with. Hard habits are hard to acquire, but a lot easier to live with.
Well said. Each one teach one, right?
There you go.
That's the
I love
concept.
the tick tick creates a boom boom.
A lot of good tips and tricks.
For inviting me here, man.
It's a pleasure. So I heard your golf game is pretty good.
No, I'm an average golfer. I have my days though where I hit it long, but when I figured out how to play a better short game, now I can't come off the tee.
Okay.
But all in all, man, I love getting out.
Well, we have a golf tournament coming up in October, so we'll probably reach out to you and let you know. It's a military thing. We tend to capture a lot of players. So I think it's almost 150 people.
Man, we'll love to participate.
Good. Definitely we'll add to that. So guys, we're dropping some tips and tricks in your ear. We heard from a wise man, and he's a local. So we would definitely like to bring you a lot of good stuff. So Julio, what else you got?
That's all we got. Thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We will be back next week with another community leader. Thank you, James Hawkins, for everything you provided us today. It was a true pleasure.
Thank you.
And you gave a lot of action to.
Hopefully the information that was shared today was beneficial to the audience.
Absolutely,
Thank you.
sir. Thank you very much.
That sounds like the Rotary there, right?
Yeah.
Is it the truth? All right.